So if you have questions for our fantastic panel, this is a dream panel for communicating ideas. Please type in your questions; they'll appear right above their heads. And then, if you don't like a question, you can downvote it, and it should move lower down in the list. And if you like it, upvote it. So, communicating finance ideas—it's so important to all of us. So the sessions that take place here on this main stage are those that are or should be of interest to both fintechs and academics, and we're a blended fintech academic conference. Can I ask each of the panelists to please introduce yourselves?
Yes, of course. My name is Crespo. I'm chief editor of Nordic Fintech magazine, which is basically a media outlet that covers the riveting world of fintech in the Nordics and the Baltics.
Hello, my name is Ashwini, and I'm currently a finance professor at the LSE, and I've been in the profession for about 17 years.
Morning, everyone. My name is Linas. Please vote on my. Hello? One, two. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, morning. My name is Linas. I just joined AI and risk startup called Oscilar as head of content. I'm also a venture advisor for EQT Ventures, and I have a fintech newsletter that I write about intersection about finance and technology daily.
So I think Linas saying that he has a fintech newsletter is kind of like, I don't know, Elon Musk saying he has a company. So your newsletter, your posts, so I wake up every day to post from Linas, and it's absolutely amazing content. You'll see there's a banner with a QR code, so you're very welcome to subscribe. It's really fantastic. It really is just the best content that they see every day on what's happening in tech and in fintech in particular, and it's irresistibly engaging. What's your secret, Linas?
Wow, you got me. So the secret is that there's a lot of there's a big team in Philippines that works 24/7. No, I'm kidding. There's actually there's only me, and I'm just kind of a my wife would probably say that I kind of spend too much time on my phone, but given that there's so much exciting things happening in the world of finance and technology, maybe right now more in the technology side of fintech, I'm just like too excited to just share something, right? And my filter has always been, if this is interesting for me, then I would write about it. If it's not, then I just wouldn't post about it. So that's my North Star.
Chris, you're the founder of a fintech magazine. How did you decide to do this? How did you build this thing? And then how do you decide which stories to prioritize?
Well, I'm a recovering banker. Worked for the industry for many years in the Nordics, and when I left my last job, I realized that even within the bank, most people have no clue what everyone else is doing in other business areas, just because financial services is traditionally very siloed. And I thought there's something we need to do here about helping banks communicate ideas more effectively. I worked a lot with fintechs, and I recognized that fintechs had exactly the same problem. So I said, why don't we build a platform through which fintechs can communicate effectively what they're actually doing, get other parts of the industry to understand what it is that they're doing, and just enable them to get that visibility and that exposure that very often they don't really focus on, right? Most marketing might not necessarily be the first priority, and certainly not communication for if you're building a fintech company. So we thought, don't worry about it, we'll build a platform, we'll help you do it. And effectively what we do is we help convert their brilliant ideas and their innovations into stories that engage the audience.
And I just want to say it's a fantastic magazine, fantastic online resource, and not just for the Baltics. Everyone should have a look at Nordic Fintech magazine online. Now, we are a blended fintech academic conference, and we're 50-50 here, 50% academics, 50% people from the fintech world. Now, Ashwini, you're professor at one of the most esteemed institutions in economics and finance, London School of Economics. And you and I also share something, which is a passion, for, or let's say deep interest for now, in stand-up. Now, I'd love to know your view on, okay, so what do you think finance educators can learn from comedians, and maybe there's nothing? I don't know, in terms of delivery, holding audience attention, compressing it. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, I think now I'm using this properly. I guess, yeah, so David asked me to participate, and he had heard somehow that I had done some stand-up comedy and thought that maybe I can tell you something that would be useful about the parallels between stand-up comedy and maybe being a teacher. I guess there's many elements that I find in common. I guess the three things that I would start with are, most importantly, and probably related to what these guys are also working on, is that I usually try to think about teaching a concept almost like I'm also telling a story. And one of the things they taught, I took some comedy classes, and one of the things they would say in these classes is when you tell a story, you want to think about that story in three parts. One is just describe a setting that people are familiar with and really try to identify where people are coming from, who your audience is. The second thing is then introduce to them some conflict that they genuinely want to solve on their own but cannot. So when I teach the class, I kind of describe, here's the setting, and this is something you might want to deal with when you're on the job. And then the third thing is, once you have them struggling with that problem on their own, kind of provide a solution that almost comes as a surprise to them. Just like when you tell a joke, people oftentimes laugh when they feel this element of surprise, that you've presented some sort of tension, and when they resolve that tension, it just elicits laughter because it's kind of a surprising thing. And with teaching, what I found and what they would tell us in these classes is that oftentimes the things that we remember the most oftentimes come in the form of a surprise, that you say, like, look, here's a problem that you're dealing with, but then when people really want to solve it and cannot do it, if you give them a solution that's kind of surprising, that's something that sticks with them much more than even if you just present a very logical conclusion. So these are the things I would start with.
And I'd love to hear Linas's take on this. And also I throw in the fact that comedians, they like to surprise you, and then there's like a topper. Like you thought they were done, you thought that's a surprise, and then there's like another one on top of this, which is very effective but very hard to come up with, right? Linas, so what's your take on this? What is it makes a finance story click with readers? Is it a surprise? Is it a statistic, a metaphor, a narrative arc?
I guess I would probably just reiterate what just has been said, and I'm constantly reminded of that, and I think I shared that at least a few times myself. So there's a quote from Steve Jobs, who said, the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. So one way or the other, it has to be about the story. It has to have some value and some reason. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be something serious, right? It could be funny. It could be entertaining, it could be shocking, it could be just some interesting data. So the way to structure that, I think that's coming to different ways of mindsets that people have been shaped. So whether you put it more in the, I don't know, some comedy kind of a sketch, whether you structure in your own way, shape, or form, or you maybe are very good with visuals, right? So you could do a visual. So to answer your question, I guess there's no like one silver bullet. It all comes down just on these two main things, whether it adds value and whether it's relevant. Now how you do that, everybody has to find out, I guess, their own secret sauce.
Thank you, Chris. Before I ask you for your tips on moderating a session, because that's a question I want to know the answer to. I just want to ask Ashwini, does it go the other way? You've met a lot of comedians. Is there something they can learn from finance professors, or it's only the other way?
To be honest, I'm really not sure. Let's move to Chris. Yeah, this is a tough one. I've definitely learned a lot from comedy. I'm really not sure what finance professors can teach comedians.
Well, we just have to work harder until they have something to learn from us. Chris, so there's communicating ideas that you are bringing, but that's also getting others to communicate them effectively. And you have moderated an incredible number of sessions, have done an incredible number of interviews. And what are your tips for that, for getting ideas come out of people in the most interesting way?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here, and it is very much related to what the panel has been discussing. We talk about engaging people either through comedy, through surprise, through the narrative. When it comes to business communicating to consumers, I think we have a good, we come to a good understanding of how to do that. But when it comes to business communicating to other businesses, what you immediately are met with is that we need to appear to be serious because we're a serious business. How can comedy? No, our business is on the line here. And I think what we miss sometimes is that at the end of the day, there's still another individual representing a business. So you need to be able to engage them. So very often what we do is, first of all, at least that's what I do personally, is just making sure that they know that they're talking to another person. So they feel relaxed, so they feel at ease. And just ask questions that are not always necessarily related. Like, tell me what's the value proposition of your business. Because let's face it, that's boring. No one really wants to hear about that. I want to hear, what are the struggles? What are the challenges? What are your fears? Can you communicate things in a way that emotionally engages me and that stirs me up? Because that's what will be memorable. And at the end of the day, that's you want people to remember you. You want your name and your brand to stick in people's minds. So it is about connecting emotionally rather than here's my fact sheet of my product or service that I provide in the market.
And so if I were to ask you, what would be your questions to Linas and to Ashwini at this point?
That's a very good question. I would just say, so what is it that you see that gets the best response of when you communicate? I was just having a chat with Linas just before the panel. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, and I'm going to embarrass you, Linas, but Linas is a newsletter. He's not just a newsletter. He has over 500,000 subscribers. Yeah, well, at least followers on LinkedIn, and that's remarkable for someone that talks about finance. And how he opens is like, this is wild. And that immediately grasps you, more like in a way that social media grasps consumers. And then he goes to talk about AI or whatever trend is trending on the day. And then that surprises people. And I'm sure comedy is the same way. So maybe my question would be, what have you seen that gets the best reaction, not from someone representing a business, but from someone as an individual that will cause them to want to engage with a business?
Okay, so yeah, you embarrassed me. It's over 600,000 now, so you clearly haven't seen my last few posts. But on a serious note, I think it's again a play and a bit of a trial and error, right? Sometimes, sometimes you do these type of things on purpose just to get people's reaction, and you might sometimes choose to be on the edge for the sake of being on the edge, not necessarily that you're seriously believing that, but it's all about. All I care mostly is about the dialogue and the conversation. So you can have as many followers as you want. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is, at least from the beginning, was to focus on those 1,000 true fans, those people that can really come up, say hi, buy stuff that you sell, or come to your keynote. So this is what truly matters. And obviously, the bigger you are, or the more followers you have, it's becoming more and more difficult to maintain that. But ultimately, if you optimize for, let's say, conversation or dialogue versus just pure exposure, I think this is what really matters. Now, the way you do that and what works, again, there's no secret sauce or one silver bullet. There have been some posts that I did which took me 5 minutes and they got millions of views, and there were some that I spent a lot of time researching, gathering the data, where I believe people would have valued that, and it got 10x less. So it's a mix of timing, getting the right people, being at the right place at the right time, so to say, and this is what actually ticks. So basically, the more you experiment, the better you feel or have that intuition what could potentially work. But even if something worked yesterday, doesn't mean that it will work today. On the other side, if something didn't work 6 months ago, you could do the exact same thing and it could blow up. So basically, it's very tricky. In a sense, it's also exciting because you never know how far it could go. It is probably a bit frustrating if you had some expectations, yeah, this is really cool. I think people will love it, and nobody loves it. But that's I guess also part of the game.
Your question too, Ashwini.
Well, yes, and actually I might be able to answer now your question. It took me a long time. But I think one of the things, and it's not really about finance teaching comedy, it's more about understanding kind of doing things well versus not doing things so well. So, for example, in finance, it's very easy to just teach concepts. They learn it for a few minutes and then they forget about it. And it's oftentimes when you do that, you're not really connecting to what they really deeply want. And so therefore, in finance, what at least I've tried to do when I teach is really understand very deeply what do they really, really care about, and then teach finance with that perspective. With comedy, it's the same thing, where there's a lot of comedians probably we all know that there's a lot of people you can listen to, you get some laughs, but then you forget about them very quickly. Whereas there's some people you listen to, and even for years, you might just think about one or two jokes that they said because they cut very deep. So I think one of the things that I would tell maybe a comedian who's thinking about how good their jokes are is really think, how deeply are you really touching the people that you're speaking to? And I think maybe that's something that maybe, because finance is it can be such a dry subject. And so we have a lot of experience trying to make it interesting for other people. So that's something that I think could be helpful.
If I may add, I'd just like to give a short story about something that we were trying to do to achieve salience, which is something I guess a lot of people here in academic circles are familiar with, the salience, which is what sticks to your memory. And I had the opportunity to interview Linas a couple of years ago. And we had the interview where we were discussing what his business was doing. And one of the things I asked Linas to bring to the interview is bring something that represents Lithuania for you. And he introduced me to kuchukai, right? So for those who don't know, I'm not even sure I know exactly what it is, but these cookies that Lithuanians eat over Christmas with milk.
Before Christmas.
Before Christmas, right?
After Christmas.
Now, you want to ask, what does that have to do with finance? Well, absolutely nothing. But it achieves salience to the point that I remember the name. And that's what we're trying to do. If we can stick to someone's memory, maybe they will recognize, yeah, Linas was the one that introduced kuchukai to the audience. Not related to finance, but it sticks, and that's really what we're looking for. That emotional connection that makes people stay top of mind.
Let's pick up that thought, because all of this there's comedy, then there's improvisation, and these are very important. And if we wanted to link kuchukai to finance, how would we do that?
So what was the question?
If we wanted to link, for kuchukai not just to stick in your memory as a trigger for Lithuania, but if we wanted to also link it to finance, how might we do this? So what kind of cookie is it? What's the just size?
It's just like a small round circle-shaped cookie with some pop seeds, and it's like usually people just have it as snacks, or like based on traditions they eat it, I think, during the Christmas Eve with some poppy seed milk. I think that's the definition. So like it's nothing special, but somehow a lot of people do enjoy it as a snack. My kids enjoy it as a snack. My wife enjoys it as a snack. My mother-in-law enjoys it as a snack. And sometimes I also enjoy them as a snack. So how to introduce that? That's a very tough question.
I would say it's not necessarily about making the connection between kuchukai and finance. At the end of the day, we're fighting for attention, right? And we're overloaded with information coming at us from all angles. The latest figures I heard is that you need to hear someone's message 7 times before you actually start recognizing it. So this is about providing that salience that eventually helps you be recognized. And maybe you cannot connect kuchukai to finance, but it's because of kuchukai that I remember you. And then the second time I see you, it's like, yeah, it's the guy that talked about kuchukai. And then the third time is like, and now I remember that you work for this company, that you have this product and service. So it's providing that salience that over time provides exposure and visibility. That's how I would take it.
Which is why the mental image that I'd like you to leave from this example is of a successful Lithuanian fintech that's handing out kuchukai so that you remember about them. So we have some questions here. And Ashwini, what has been the funniest joke you heard or said in relation to fintech? To fintech, or maybe you can broaden it to finance?
I mean, thanks for putting me on the spot. I really have never heard a funny joke about fintech. And I guess by saying that, that is now my joke to you.
And please think hard. If you haven't heard of a joke related to fintech, make one up. You can go anonymous here, right? You don't have to put your name. And then if it gets upvoted, we know it's funny. Linas, I'm one of your 600,000 subscribers and value your opinions as much as Simon Taylor's. Sorry, don't know who Simon Taylor is, from the UK. How much, well, if you have to say he's from the UK, then clearly he's not as influential as Linas, because Linas doesn't even have to use his last name. If you say Linas, everyone knows who he is. How much time does it take to, secrets, how much time does it take to prepare each newsletter, and how do you monetize it? Whoa.
Okay, yeah. So I have two. So one is on LinkedIn and the other is in Substack. So Substack goes out daily, and it depends on what's happening in the market. It could be from a few hours to a bit more. So if there's a lot of things to do or a lot of things that happened, it's relatively easy, especially if I already have some thoughts or perspectives. So again, I could do it in 2 hours. I could do it in 4 hours. Then the weekly one is kind of a summary issue of what happened over the week. And the way to monetize it's quite simple. So it's twofold. So the Substack one, which goes out daily, it's the premium version. So only subscribers can read all the resources and all the issues. And then on the weekend, on Sunday, you get like a summary of 3 stories, which is basically 10% or 50% of the whole newsletter, plus all other resources that I have compiled. So the free one is monetized through brand sponsorships and partnerships. So yeah.
Last round of questions. Ashwini, your advice to your younger self starting out to teach, starting out to present research?
Well, I guess the tip for my younger self, and maybe related to these comments and how to make something salient as well, I was just thinking about the importance of authenticity, both when, if somebody asks me even the question above, what's the funniest joke you heard, it's very hard to come up with something trying to be funny or trying to be salient. But as long as you focus on trying to be authentic, then somehow magically some things will come out. For example, if we were talking about the cookies, the thing that would really make it authentic is if you talk about how they really make you feel. Let's say experiences you've had during the holidays or something like that. When you're talking about a business, to make it salient, if you're really connecting with the authentic emotions that somehow get stirred with whatever you're doing, that's one thing I would say. I think with research early on, it's very easy, when I was younger and for many other people, to really try to write a famous paper or have impact. But I think it's very hard to do that. Whereas I think if you really try to be authentic about the problems you want to solve and focus on that, then somehow you end up having more impact later. And even if you don't, at least you're satisfied with that pursuit. So I think authenticity is kind of the core thing that I've learned both about doing research and doing comedy that makes a big difference.
Thank you. Linas, a 2-part question. The first part is very self-serving. What can finance academics who are doing research in fintech do to get their research on your radar? And the second question is your future plans, any appearances, anything you want to promote?
Yeah, very good question. So I think it has been partially answered, but I can probably reiterate it from a bit like my point of view. So so one key thing is obviously being authentic and being yourself, finding your voice. And then, just like posting or sharing for the sake of sharing, like nobody really wants that, right? So we have a ton of research that nobody has ever read. Maybe even right now with the AI, the peer reviewers are no longer reading the research themselves. They just like put it into ChatGPT and ask for the comments. And I think it will only get worse. So right now, to get attention, you like really need to be different, unique, or at least trying to put a message in a way that captures attention. Now, how to do that, it's probably I would stick to what I said in the beginning, and I can give you like a one recent and very interesting example. So I made a post, which is not really related to what I do, about how some academics, I think from was from Rome, they did a research using not really AI, it was actually math, to predict the next pope, and they actually predicted the next pope, and I made a post about it, right? So it's not really related to what I do, but I tried to put it in a way of like why it's interesting, and it's actually fascinating, right? So if you take those lessons and kind of apply to your area, field, and you try to bring these interesting, topics, angles, conversations, I think you would slowly start, building that. And again, it's trial and error. You need to like do a lot of posts, a lot of trials, a lot of different messaging to find your voice and to see what works. And ultimately, don't be afraid to ask feedback from the audience and from the community. And then the second part, I try to minimize my travel as much as possible because my wife doesn't really like to leave her with two kids, but I think I have a trip to London and Vegas pretty much, so that's kind of for the rest of the year.
And Vegas is for Money 2020 in October?
Yes, and I mean, if there's one ask that I could ask the audience here or anybody that's listening online, please subscribe to my newsletter, because right now the parking is very expensive in this area and I don't want to get fined, so every dollar counts.
And I want to second this because I'm a subscriber and it's absolutely fantastic content. Chris, plans for Nordic Fintech Magazine and also Baltic Fintech Days. I know you're organizing a conference here in Riga. Tell us more about the plans.
So what we realized is that the combinatorial effect of the different channels is what really gets the visibility. We started with the aim of bringing the content to wherever the audience is and in the format that the audience wants to consume it. So if they want to consume it on a digital platform, and podcast format, in video interview format, in an article, or in an event where they can go on stage, we combine all those things. So we have Baltic Fintech Days coming up next year, taking place in Riga. It's the largest fintech event in the Baltics. So of course, you're all very welcome to attend. I think it's a riveting experience, and we look forward to seeing many of you there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.